What's up, everybody? The Invincible War is here, and those of us who have read the books knew where that would take us. Let's dive into this. This is far and away my favorite portion of the comics that I've read so far, as we get the 3-day invasion led by Angstrom Levy's Invincible army that featured Cape Vincible, Sport Vincible, Prison Vincible, No Gogglesable, Flaxancible, Mo Vincihawk, Hair Vincible, Goggles Vincible, Cape Vincible, No Maskable, Mask Vincible, Mustachable, Hood Vincible, Omnivincible, Filtramite Simple, Bulletproofable, Light Blue Vincible, and Stripe Vincible. But while all those variants that were created by Robert Kirkman to mock the multiverse are coming down from Angstrom's portals, we stop in with Rex and Ray as she moves into her new place. It was absolutely devastating watching this scene, watching him tell her it's probably no big deal and he'll be right back, knowing his fate that I've been warning you guys about all season. Then, just a quick side note, I thought Steven Yeun did a great job keeping the same base performance for each variant of Invincible while adding noticeable but subtle variations in his voice. It was very reminiscent, at least to me as a giant Star Wars nerd, of D. Bradley Baker's work, giving every clone in the Clone Wars and the Bad Batch that he voiced their own personality, and that's a great camp to be in. Anyway, on to day 2, and this was a truly devastating day of the 3 for me watching this episode, but we found one of our new cast members. That was Jonathan Banks, who isn't Conquest, but instead, he's Brit, and I actually love this casting as he sends our heroes out to fight what is pretty much non-stop fighting for the next 2 episodes, which it's crazy to think we only have 2 episodes left because Eve's suffering has just begun in this episode and she goes through it during this invasion and the fight that follows day 3, but we'll get to that next week. We gotta say goodbye to one of my favorite characters, the dictionary definition of the lovable douche, Rexplode. Huge shout out to Jason Mantzoukas for his work over these 3 seasons, well, I guess 2.5, and just what a moment. Then we see Mark at Eve's side in the hospital, and again, I don't want to spoil too much for those of you who haven't read the books, but when the big bad man comes knocking at the end of this episode and into next episode, she won't be down long, but she also won't be back up long, then she won't be down long again, and she'll be different. I promise that gibberish will make sense next week. Just wait to be engulfed by this great stretch of the story. Alright, before I dive into day 3 and the arrival of the big bad wolf, Walking Dead fans, I hope you like that one. Let's take a breather. If you're enjoying the breakdown in all its entirety and craziness so far, I'd appreciate it greatly if you subscribe to the channel to show your support. But with that being said, let's get back to the episode. Moving on to day 3, the day in the show where the changes stood out the most to me, we're down to just 13 Invincibles. One of the good changes comes when they meet up with Angstrom Levy, and we just get more than we did in the books with this group, like Hood Vincible focusing more on Debbie here in the show instead of the house, like he does in the books there, and also the taunting that follows that. But they really changed the reunion of Mark and Angstrom. In the comics, it's Mark, Oliver, and a one-handed Bulletproof who enter the fight, so there's another change. Bulletproof does not lose a hand in the show during the Invincible War, but Angstrom does use his balls, paws, to fight in the books, just not as many as he does in the show, and then Oliver tells him to finish him just like he does here. Then in the show, it's obviously just the one-on-one pretty much, and I do like that actually because their beef is very personal. Then Oliver comes in towards the end of the fight for that discussion on Angstrom's fate, and really Kirkman just upped the ante for the fight in the show, and then with the Invincibles, all of them, he really just gave each variant more personality. Angstrom wasn't the only one trying to settle beef with Mark this week though, as Powerplex returns only to be quickly defeated after he used the Invincible War to break out of prison. Mark and Oliver just pin him down and let his energy run out, but he does put another crack in Mark's mind while he's being taken down. Then once Mark's back at the hospital with Eve, he finally meets the parents and it goes how she feared it would because, well, her dad's a giant douche. but they tie this back to the Adam Eve special, the special presentation, as her childhood friend Valerie died in the Invincible War. They do change the name of the girl that dies during the war from the books, but overall, this scene was pretty much intact. Which, speaking of intact, when we saw Immortal be brought back to life for like the millionth time, I had Compendium to open when I was watching the show, and it hit me that Kate's design has just been static throughout the show where it evolves in the books. But that's a huge nitpick and not really anything important on my part, as the couple is set to retire and start a family. However, none of that matters, not a single second of the episode until the end, because we all know what we were waiting for, and it was even better than I thought it would be. Conquest arrives, and this dog, Robert Kirkman, got his guy Jeffrey Dean Morgan in the role for a Glenn versus Negan rematch. He also recreated the end of chapter 61 in the books, going into chapter 62 to a T to send us into the finale. That was a great bounce back episode for season 3 after what I felt were two underwhelming episodes, 5 and 6, in the middle of the season that are nothing but an afterthought after this episode. The war delivered like I had hoped it would, and once again, shout out Jason Mantzoukas. Both he and Rex will be missed moving forward in the show. And so that'll do it for my breakdown of the penultimate episode for Invincible Season 3. Just when I'm back to calling it mid-vincible, Kirkman pulls me back in with a moment like Conquest arriving, and in an instant, we're back to peak Vincible. But drop your thoughts on the penultimate episode down in the comments, smash that like button, and make sure you have a great day.